He knew this moment would change everything. There was no turning back now.
They say the devil drives a black sedan in Seoul, and the night Ive escaped with nothing but her dead mother's ring and the clothes on her back. She proved it true. Minho should have kept driving when he saw the bleeding girl in his headlights, should have remembered that men in his position don't stop for broken things. But her eyes held a fire that matched the violence in his soul, and by the time he opened his car door, both their fates were already sealed in blood and obsession. Welcome to AfroKorean Drama Hub, dearest friend. Please like, share, and subscribe. She stumbled backward, water streaming down her face, mixing with tears she refused to acknowledge. His hand shot out, steadying her with a grip that was firm yet impossibly gentle. The street was empty except for them, the rain creating a curtain that separated this moment from the rest of the world. He spoke in Korean first, then switched to English when she flinched. "You're hurt." It wasn't a question. His voice was low, controlled, but she heard the edge beneath it, like a blade wrapped in silk. She should have run. Everything about him screamed danger, from his tailored suit to the way his men materialized from the shadows, flanking him like wolves. But her legs wouldn't move. "Please," she whispered, hating how broken she sounded. "I just need to get away from here." He studied her face, taking in every detail, the curve of her cheek, the defiance still burning in her eyes despite her fear, the way she held herself like someone who'd learned to survive. Something shifted in his expression, a decision made in the space between heartbeats. "Get in the car." When she hesitated, he added, "I'm not asking." It should have terrified her. Instead, she found herself stepping toward the open door, toward this stranger who looked at her like she was something precious he'd found in the wreckage. The leather interior smelled like expensive cologne and danger. He slid in beside her, maintaining a careful distance even as his eyes tracked every shiver that ran through her rain-soaked body. "Take us to the penthouse," he told the driver, then turned his full attention to her. "I'm Minho. You're going to tell me who hurt you." The authority in his voice made her spine straighten. "I don't need rescuing," she said, even as her body betrayed her with another violent shiver. His lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. "No, you need safety. There's a difference." He shrugged out of his jacket and draped it over her shoulders before she could protest. The warmth was immediate, dizzying. Later that night, in a penthouse that overlooked the glittering Seoul skyline, Ive stood wrapped in a towel while a woman Minho called his housekeeper tended to her wounds. Through the open door, she could hear him speaking rapid Korean on the phone, his tone clipped and deadly. She caught her stepmother's name and felt ice slide down her spine. "What is he doing?" she asked the housekeeper in English. The older woman's expression softened. "Ensuring you're never hurt again, dear. That's what he does for people he claims." The word hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. If wanted to argue that she wasn't his to claim, but the words died in her throat. He appeared in the doorway as the housekeeper finished, his jacket gone, his white shirt rolled up to reveal forearms marked with ink she didn't want to examine too closely. "The guest room is prepared. You'll stay here tonight." She stood, his jacket falling away, meeting his eyes with all the courage she could gather. "I can't stay. I don't even know you." He moved closer, not touching, but near enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "Your stepmother withdrew all your university funds this afternoon. Your apartment lease was terminated. Your bank account is frozen." Each word landed like a physical blow. "How do you know all that?" His smile was almost gentle. "Because I made 3 phone calls and learned everything about you, Efe Adeyemi. 23 years old, biochemistry major, scholarship student who worked 2 jobs until your father died, and his widow decided you were competition for his money." The accuracy should have frightened her. Instead, she felt something else entirely, a dangerous warmth spreading through her chest. "What do you want from me?" He reached up, his fingers hovering near her cheek without making contact. "Nothing you're not willing to give, but I won't watch you go back to someone who leaves marks." His eyes dropped to her arms, and the fury that flashed across his face made her breath catch. Stay, just for tonight. The next morning, Ife woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of coffee. She found Minho in the kitchen, dressed in dark slacks and a white shirt, looking like sin wrapped in civilization. "There are clothes in the bedroom," he said, without looking up from his phone. "Your size, don't argue." She wanted to, but the truth was she had nowhere to go, no money, and pride wouldn't keep her warm. "Why are you helping me?" He finally looked at her, and the intensity in his dark eyes made her pulse jump. "Because when I saw you in that rain, something in me recognized something in you, and I protect what's mine." A few days later, she was still there. Minho left early and returned late, but there were signs of his attention everywhere. Fresh flowers on the dining table, her favourite foods appearing in the refrigerator without her mentioning them, books in English showing up on the coffee table, always in her preferred genres. The housekeeper, Mrs. Kim, watched it all with knowing eyes. "In 20 years I've never seen him like this," she told Ife one afternoon. "Like what?" Ife asked, even though her heart was already racing. "Like a man who's found something worth more than power." That night, Minho came home to find her cooking dinner, an attempt to repay his kindness. He froze. In the doorway, something vulnerable flashing across his face before his usual mask slid back into place. They ate in surprisingly comfortable silence until he asked about her studies. She came alive talking about biochemistry, about her research, about dreams she'd thought were dead. He listened like every word mattered, his eyes never leaving her face. "You'll finish your degree," he said when she fell quiet. "I've already handled it." Her fork clattered against the plate. "You what?" He leaned back, completely unbothered by her rising anger. "Your scholarship has been reinstated. Your stepmother won't be a problem anymore." The implications of that last sentence made her stomach twist. "What did you do?" His smile was cold. "Nothing she didn't deserve, but nothing permanent. I'm not a monster, Ife, just a man who solves problems." The following week, she returned to campus, driven there each morning by one of Minho's men. She told herself it was temporary, that she'd find her own place, but every night she came back to the penthouse like it was pulling her home. Minho was there more often now, his business somehow requiring less travel. They fell into a rhythm that felt dangerously domestic. He'd work in his study while she studied in the living room. Sometimes she'd feel his eyes on her and look up to find him watching with an expression that made heat pool in her stomach. Neither of them named what was building between them, but it crackled in the air like electricity before a storm. One evening, she made the mistake of mentioning a study group. "There's this guy in my biochem class, Ethan. He's been really helpful with the material I missed." Minho's hand tightened around his glass, the only sign of his reaction. "How helpful?" His voice was casual, but she'd learned to read the danger in his stillness. "He's just a friend." Something dark flickered across his face. "I don't like him helping you." The possessiveness in those words should have annoyed her. Instead, it sent a thrill down her spine that she absolutely refused to examine. "You don't get to dictate my friendships." He stood, moving toward her with predatory grace. "No, but I can be honest about what I feel when another man gets close to what's mine." She stood her ground even as he crowded into her space, his scent wrapping around her, making her dizzy. "I'm not yours." His hand came up, cupping her face with devastating gentleness. "Aren't you? Then why do you come home to me every night? Why do you look for me the moment you walk through that door? Why does your breath catch when I'm near?" Each question was a direct hit to her defences. "Minho." His name was a whisper, a plea. "I terrify you," he said softly. "Not because you think I'll hurt you, but because you're starting to feel what I've felt since that first night. Like you'd burn the world down if someone tried to take me away." She pressed her hand against his chest, feeling his heart racing beneath her palm. "This is insane. You're dangerous. This life you lead, it's not something I can be part of." He covered her hand with his, holding it against his heart. "You think I don't know that? You think I wanted to feel this way? I've spent my whole life being cold, calculated, in control. Then you stumbled into my path, and suddenly none of that matters. The only thing I care about is keeping you safe, keeping you close, making sure you never look at another man the way you're looking at me right now." Before she could respond, his phone rang, shattering the moment. He answered in sharp Korean, his expression darkening with each word. When he hung up, his jaw was tight. "I have to go. Stay here. Don't leave the penthouse." Later that night, Ife couldn't sleep, her mind replaying his words, the heat in his eyes, the way her body had responded to his nearness. She was falling for him, had probably been falling since that first night, and it terrified her more than anything else. Around 2 a.m, she heard the penthouse door open. She found him in the living room, his shirt torn, blood on his knuckles, looking like violence contained in human form. "Oh God, Minho!" She rushed to him, her hands hovering over his injuries. "What happened?" He caught her wrists, his grip gentle despite the wildness in his eyes. "Business, nothing for you to worry about." But she could see the tension in every line of his body. She pulled him to the bathroom, making him sit on the edge of the tub while she cleaned his wounds. He watched her in silence, something fierce and hungry burning in his gaze. "You should be running from me," he said quietly, "not taking care of me." She met his eyes as she bandaged his hand. "Maybe I should, but I'm not." His other hand came up, tangling in her hair, tilting her face to his. "Ife, if we cross this line, I won't be able to let you go. You need to understand that. I'm not a good man. I'm possessive and jealous, and I'll want you in ways that should scare you." Her heart was thundering, but she didn't pull away. "Show me." The words hung between them for one endless moment before he pulled her to him with a growl that resonated in her bones. His mouth claimed hers with a hunger that stole her breath, his hands spanning her waist, pulling her between his legs. She gasped against his lips, and he took advantage, deepening the kiss until she was drowning in him, in the taste of danger and desire and something that felt terrifyingly like belonging. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. "This changes everything," he warned. She nodded, past words, past rational thought. He stood, lifting her effortlessly, and carried her to his bedroom. What happened next was a blur of whispered confessions, of barriers breaking down, of two people who'd been alone too long finally finding home in each other's arms. He was gentle and fierce by turns, worshipping her with a reverence that made tears prick her eyes. When she woke, before dawn, his arm was heavy around her waist, his face relaxed in sleep in a way she'd never seen. Reality crashed in like cold water. What had she done? She'd given herself to a man she barely knew, a dangerous man, and now she'd be just another conquest. The thought made her chest ache. Carefully, she extracted herself from his embrace and dressed quietly. She left a note on the pillow with shaking hands, 3 words that felt both true and like the biggest lie she'd ever told. "I can't do this." Then she slipped out of the penthouse, out of his building, and into the grey morning, feeling like she was leaving her heart behind. By midday, she'd found a friend from campus who let her crash on their couch. She turned off her phone, ignored the dozens of calls from unknown numbers, tried to convince herself she'd made the right choice. But that night, as rain began to fall again, she couldn't stop crying, couldn't stop seeing the way he'd looked at her like she was his entire world. She'd run because she was afraid, because believing someone like him could truly want someone like her felt impossible, because she was terrified of what she'd felt in his arms. Around midnight there was a knock on her friend's door. Her friend opened it and immediately stepped back, eyes wide. Ife, there's someone here for you." She knew before she saw him. Minho stood in the doorway, rain-soaked, his usually perfect appearance dishevelled, his eyes wild with something between fury and desperation. "We need to talk." Her friend tactfully disappeared into another room. If stood, wrapping her arms around herself. There's nothing to talk about. Last night was a mistake. He moved into the apartment like a storm system, closing the space between them. A mistake, that's what you call the most honest thing that's happened between us? His voice was raw. You felt it too, Ife. Don't lie to me. She forced herself to meet his eyes. It was just physical. It doesn't change anything. We're from different worlds. He laughed, but there was no humour in it. Just physical? Is that why you're crying? Is that why you left before I could wake up and tell you that I love you? The words hit her like a physical blow. She stumbled back, shaking her head. You don't love me. You can't. You barely know me. He followed, relentless. I know you take your coffee with too much sugar. I know you sing when you think no one's listening. I know you're brilliant and brave and so damn beautiful it hurts to look at you. I know you've been hurt and you're scared to trust that what I feel is real. But I'm not some boy playing games, Ife. When I say I love you, I mean I'd burn this entire city down before I let anyone hurt you again. I mean you're mine and I'm yours and nothing else matters. She wanted to believe him so badly it felt like her chest was cracking open. Your world is dangerous. What if someone uses me to get to you? What if I can't handle it? He cupped her face in, both hands, forcing her to hold his gaze. Then I'll spend every day for the rest of my life keeping you safe, and you can handle anything because you're the strongest person I've ever met. You survived abuse and loss and kept fighting. You think I don't see that? You think that's not exactly why I fell for you? Tears were streaming down her face now. I'm scared. His thumbs brushed them away. So am I. But I'm more scared of losing you. Come home with me. Let me prove I'm worth the risk. The following morning, she woke in his bed, his arms around her, sunlight warming her face. This time she didn't run. Over breakfast, he laid out exactly what his life entailed, holding nothing back, the businesses both legitimate and less so, the enemies, the constant vigilance required. I won't lie to you about any of it, he said. If you stay, it won't always be easy. But I swear to you, I'll protect you with everything I have. She took his hand across the table. I'm staying, but I need you to understand something too. I'm not going to be some kept woman. I'm finishing my degree. I'm building my own career. I'm going to be your equal, not your possession. He smiled, real and warm. I wouldn't want you any other way. The next few weeks were almost perfect. She went to classes, he handled his business, and they came together each night like magnets, unable to stay apart. He showed her his Seoul, the hidden restaurants, the quiet parks, the places only locals knew. She met his inner circle, was surprised by how they accepted her, how they seemed relieved to see their boss happy. Mrs. Kim watched them with satisfaction, like she'd known all along how this would end. But perfection never lasts. One evening, Ive came home to find the penthouse swarming with Minho's men, all of them armed, all of them tense. Minho was on the phone, his expression carved from stone. When he saw her, relief flashed across his face before hardening into something terrifying. He ended the call and pulled her into his study, closing the door. There's been a threat. Someone found out about you. Her blood went cold. What kind of threat? He gripped her shoulders, his eyes boring into hers. The kind that means you don't leave this building without security. The kind that means I need you to trust me completely for the next few days. She saw the fear beneath his control, and it scared her more than his words. Who? His jaw clenched. A rival. Someone who thinks hurting you will hurt me. They're not wrong. He pulled her against him, his arms tight around her. I won't let anything happen to you. I swear it. She held him back just as tightly, understanding finally what it meant to love someone in this world. For 3 days, she didn't leave the penthouse. Minho's men were everywhere, a constant reminder of the danger circling them. Minho himself barely slept, constantly on calls, coordinating something she wasn't entirely sure she wanted to understand. On the 4th day, she woke to find him gone, only a note on the pillow. Ending this today. Stay inside. I love you. Terror gripped her. She tried his phone, but it went straight to voicemail. She paced the penthouse like a caged animal while Mrs. Kim tried to reassure her. Hours passed with no word. Then, around sunset, the emergency exits burst open and 3 men she didn't recognize flooded into the penthouse. Mrs. Kim screamed. Ife ran, but they were faster, grabbing her, a cloth pressed over her mouth and nose. The world went dark. She came to in a warehouse, her head pounding, her hands zip-tied behind her. A man sat across from her, middle-aged, expensive suit, cruel eyes. Awake finally. Good. I was beginning to worry you'd miss the fun. He spoke English with barely an accent. What do you want? Her voice was surprisingly steady. He smiled. I want Kang Min-ho to understand what it costs to cross me. He took something of mine. Now I'm taking something of his. He stood, circling her chair. You're quite beautiful. I can see the appeal. All those curves, that exotic look. He always did have expensive tastes. She refused to flinch, refused to give him the satisfaction. He'll kill you for this. His laugh was genuine. Oh, I'm counting on him trying. That's when my men will be waiting. She'd been bait all along. The realization made her stomach twist. Before she could respond, gunfire erupted outside the warehouse. Her captor's expression shifted from smug to alarmed. More gunshots closer now, and the sound of shouting in Korean. Then the warehouse doors exploded inward, and Min-ho strode through the smoke like an avenging angel, gun in hand, his men flanking him. His eyes found her immediately, and the relief that crossed his face was quickly consumed by pure rage. He turned that rage on her captor, his gun rising. Touch her again and dying will be a mercy you won't receive. His voice was death itself. The man reached for a weapon, but Min-ho was faster, the shot echoing through the warehouse. Her captor crumpled, and suddenly Min-ho was there, cutting her free, his hands running over her, checking for injuries. Did he hurt you? The barely controlled violence in his voice made her shiver. No, I'm okay. Min-ho, I'm okay. He pulled her against him so hard she gasped, his face buried in her hair. When they told me they'd taken you, I understood what hell feels like. His whole body was shaking. I'm sorry. This is my fault. I should have protected you better. She pulled back, framing his face with her hands. You came for me. You saved me. That's all that matters. He kissed her then, hard and desperate, like he needed to convince himself she was real. Around them, his men discreetly turned away, securing the scene. When he finally released her, his eyes were wet. This life, it'll always have these moments. I can't promise you safety, but I can promise I'll always come for you. Always. The aftermath was brutal. 3 days of debriefings, with Min-ho's security team, increased protection, a new apartment in his building for her friend who'd been questioned. Min-ho barely let her out of his sight, and she didn't complain. She'd come too close to losing him to care about space. 1 week after the kidnapping, as they sat on the penthouse balcony watching the sun set over Seoul, he turned to her with an expression she'd never seen before. I love you, Ife Adeyemi. I love your strength and your kindness, and the way you see good in me that I'm not sure exists. I love how you make me want to be better, and I know this world is dangerous and scary and not what you signed up for. But I need you to know you're it for me. You're the only thing that matters. She turned to face him fully, her heart so full it hurt. I love you too, even when you're terrifying and overbearing and way too protective, even when your world scares me. Because underneath all of that, you're the man who stops for girls running in the rain. You're the man who makes sure I eat breakfast. You're the man who looks at me like I'm precious. And that's the man I choose, dangers and all. Something in his expression shifted, became almost vulnerable. I want to marry you. Not now. I know it's too soon. But someday, when you're ready, I want you to be my wife. I want the world to know you're mine, and I'm yours. She kissed him, soft and sweet. Someday, when we've had time to just be us for a while. But yes, Min-ho, someday, my answer is yes. 6 months later, they stood in a small ceremony hall, surrounded by the people who mattered most. She wore a dress that honoured both her Nigerian heritage and Korean traditions, a fusion that made Min-ho's eyes shine when he first saw her. His vows were simple and direct, promises of protection, love, partnership, forever. Hers were just as heartfelt, acknowledging the journey that brought them here, the darkness they'd survived, the light they'd found in each other. When he slipped the ring on her finger, his hand shook slightly, the only sign of how much this meant to him. She steadied his hand with hers, smiling through happy tears. "I've got you," she whispered. "Always," he whispered back. And when they kissed as husband and wife, the cheers of their guests faded into background noise, because in that moment the only thing that existed was them. 1 year after their wedding, Ive stood in their bedroom, Minho's arms wrapped around her from behind, his hand splayed protectively over her growing belly. "I still can't believe it," he murmured against her hair, "that you're mine, that we created this." She covered his hand with hers, feeling their baby move beneath their joined palms. "Believe it, you're going to be a father." She felt him smile against her neck. "And you're going to be an incredible mother. Our daughter is going to be so loved." They stood like that as the sun set over Seoul, two people who'd found each other in the rain and built something beautiful from the wreckage of their pasts. Outside, the city hummed with life and danger and possibility, but inside, wrapped in Minho's arms, Ive had never felt safer. Because love, the real kind, the kind worth fighting for, that was the most powerful thing in the world. And theirs was unshakable, unbreakable, eternal. They'd survived the storm, and now they were ready for whatever came next, together.